I come from somewhere you've probably never heard of, Kraalhoek. Today it's in South Africa. When I was born in 1981, it was part of Bophuthatswana, an independent homeland near the border with Botswana. In 1994, the area was reintegrated into South Africa after the end of apartheid. But even South Africans you ask about Kraalhoek will shake their heads and say, "Where's that supposed to be then?" This was precisely my question too, when I started thinking about my roots. But by then, I had long since left my homeland and found a new one in Germany. Of course, I had a general idea of where I had been born, but as we hadn't stayed there long, I had no memories of Kraalhoek. What's the internet for then? I thought. Surely there must be pictures online of the village where I took my first breath and learned to crawl. And if not of the village, then at least of the area. I picked up my smartphone, Googled Kraalhoek, and found nothing. Well, I found some pictures, but there wasn't really anything to see. Wasteland and more wasteland, whichever photo I chose to look at. That wasn't what was interesting though. The longer I stared at the nothingness, the more a strange feeling came over me. Finally, I thought, take a look at that, Motsi. That's where you came from, and just look where you are now. My gaze swept over the flat I now lived in, over the clean white modern furniture, and my possibly even paler German husband, Timo, who had just picked up some Leberkäse, meatloaf, one of my favorite foods, from our butcher. There were photos from our dance tournaments on the walls and trophies from the German championships on the shelves. But where was Africa? There was no African basket in a corner of the room, no colorful rug on the floor, no mask on the walls. I didn't even have one of those bottle cap bags you find everywhere in South Africa. Perfect recycling, but nowhere to be found in Aschaffenburg. Wait a minute. There was something that connected me to the land of my birth after all, namely the pictures of Judu and Peter Mabuse, my parents, and of my sisters Pamela and Utlile. There was that. But otherwise, you couldn't really speak of any deep connection. When you got down to it, there was nothing at all. It was 2012, and my life was going through a series of upheavals. I had stopped dancing, new avenues were opening up, and I wasn't exactly sure how it would all turn out. My future remained obstinately out of sight, so maybe I needed to take stock of the past before I could start on the next stage of my journey. And who knew, perhaps my past held the key to my yet undecided future. I leaned back in my chair and something caught my eye, half hidden on a shelf in the far corner of the room, my first ever dance trophy. Now there was a piece of Africa, dropped into my suitcase at the last minute on a recent trip home. Memories of my first dance tournament flew into my mind, of my scratchy green dress, white shoes, and tall bun, and the air of astonishment in the hot, crowded hall when a skinny 11-year-old from nowhere beat everybody to the top prize in the junior category. I could recall exactly how I'd felt that night. In my eyes, I'd been the champion of the world, not the junior winner of a regional competition. Wow, I can do something, I had thought. It was the moment that my obsession with dancing really took off. I couldn't help smiling at the distant memory. But what about the even more distant wasteland at the beginning of my story? I still felt puzzled about Kraalhoek. Judy had described it as a small country village, nothing more. You were born there was all I remembered her saying. I looked out of the window and tried to pull together the threads in my mind. Whatever she had told me as a little girl was now buried deep in my memory, and bringing it to the surface was hard work. There was nothing for it but to call my mother,